talking with our analyst today. She is none other than Idowu Tehila. She is a relationship expert joining us live in the studio this morning. Good morning, Idowu Tehila. Good to have you here.
Amelia. Thank you so much. Always great to be here.
All right. So, since we've had this conversation countless times. So, since the last time you were here and now, official report might have put the numbers of cases we've had to almost about 10, if not more. From what we've seen on the pages of the papers, the ones that are reported, some are on social media, not verified, so definitely. But you see graphic videos. I mean, the last one I saw was of the two daughters who were recording their father talking down on their mother, even threatening to beat her, and the girls had said it wasn't the first time. As a matter of fact, they were vehemently just against him and daring him to try what he had been doing over the years again with their mother. Why does it seem like the cases have risen even as we go on, as we talk? It doesn't look like the talk is doing any much work. Should we stop? Should we go on? Why the rise in cases as of now?
That's a beautiful question, Amelia. So here's where I'm going to start from. It seems like the cases are rising because there's more awareness socially. But can I tell you that this has been going on since forever? Even as a little girl, I knew families where the father was constantly beating the mother. And I'm not a baby anymore. So it's been there. But now we're hearing a lot of it because people are more vocal. They're told, you can use your phones now. I mean, this is the technology age. So you can use your phone, you can record, you can send it on social media, and everyone sees it. We didn't have that much visibility. So that's why we didn't know there were cases. But they were. So now people are coming out and they're speaking. So now everybody is more aware.
But what's the effect of the awareness? Because, yes, we're aware.
Yeah.
One would think that, all right, because I've seen it, that will become a deterrent to me from doing it. But the reverse is the case.
It may seem that nothing is happening, but I tell you that something is happening. And I'll give you some cases. I'll start with this one that you mentioned, the two daughters, right? If this had happened 10 years ago, the kids would not even have been able to stand up against their father, firstly. Secondly, they wouldn't even have been able to threaten to say, we're going to post it on social media so everyone can see. They'd probably just run into their rooms and cower or start begging and say, Daddy, please, 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 and holding, and he will feel, and say, no, I'm going to, so all of that has stopped because of this awareness. Number two, now, we have toll lines of, I've forgotten what they're called now. You can report if someone's being abused around you, especially in Lagos. So now men are a little more cautious because they know that their wives can call that number at any time and say, you know what, my husband is maltreating me. Could you come take him away? As funny as it sounds, that's happening now. A few years ago, there was no number to call. So it's just, it may not seem like it's happening, real fast, but it is. There's this study that happened, when a scientist had a room that was literally hot, and they began to increase, or in this case, reduce the temperature. And it seemed like nothing was happening. And that room remained hot until 1 centigrade later. The whole thing changed. So that's how it is. It may seem like nothing is happening, but it is. It's just building gradually. And eventually you will see the explosion. So you asked me a question and say, it seems like, okay, we're talking, we're not seeing anything. It's because in this side of the divide, a lot of people still don't believe in therapy. They don't believe in counseling. When you hear counseling, the first thing that comes to your mind is a religious place, maybe a mosque or a church. And people they're like, I don't want counseling. But when someone is abused, there's a root cause, there's a trigger. Sometimes it's because that's what that person was raised with. I'll give a good example. I know someone very well who grew up in a house or in a home where the father was constantly maltreating his mom. He grew up and got married, and the little provocations came, and he told the same line.
Let's talk about the prejudices.
Right.
For me. So, we're still going to have more reports of people, women or men being battered because, one, financially, the woman feels that if I go, I'll be able to cater for myself, or she's not financially capable to take care of the kids, or better still, she's always leaned on the man for survival. And secondly, the stigmas of the society. Look, you left your man. Your parent did that before. Nothing happened. So you can just bear. When you're married, she's a divorcee. She just left her husband because of. I'm just trying to highlight the prejudices. The religious part. You need to bear with the man. Is it perhaps you've not been really
patient enough? Right,
yeah, patient enough.
Right.
And of course, the one is that bothers me the most is the fact that you feel that because I love him that much, even if he breaks your head, you can still stay. So how do we deal with these biases? Right. Because so many people are dying.
Yeah.
Because of this, and they feel that.
It's because they want to please society at the expense of their lives. Imagine someone who got married late. And when I say late, it's subjective, okay? So in this part of the world, the minute you turn 35...
30, 35.
Oh, it's nicer now, 30 is good. The minute you turn 35, there's a problem, you know? So you eventually get married at 37. And then your husband turns you into a punching bag and you say you want to leave. Leave where? Do you know how long you've been waiting? So they will tell you to just grin and bear it. But it shouldn't be so. Now, in the times of our fathers, do you know that mothers were being, maltreated, abused? But they didn't leave because of their children. That was usually the song. My children, let me stay and bear it for my children. But in this time, I'd like to say that women should be a little more selfish and think about you. Because if you're not alive to look after these children, then what's the point? So how about saving your life so that you can take care of the children? So how do we break this bias? Because honestly, whether we believe it or not, some men are being the ones abused.
I was about to get into it.
Good.
Let's talk about the cancel culture. And sometimes the cancel culture is as soon as a woman posts something, we don't even want to know how that thing
The other side of the story.
We believe the woman can pay it. We have this story running for the past 1 month, Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Is a situation where the reverse is the case from evidence we've seen so far, pending the education of that matter. But the situation is people don't even want to verify in as much as you can say he abused me,
right?
And we've not verified it. So how do we even prove? We've seen cases where the man was at the receiving end of the short stick as against the woman, but the general assumption is that she was abused.
Well,
how do we deal? Because it has gotten to people who have lost their careers, they've lost their job, they've been stigmatized.
Right.
But we can't rule out the fact that women are often abused. That is a given.
It's the makeup of the woman. She looks tender, gentle, vulnerable. So nobody ever looks at her like the
instigator.
Yes, or the one who is assaulting. She's usually looked at as the helpless victim, the helpless female. So I believe that now the tide is turning, if I may use that phrase. It's the proverbial story of the boy who cried wolf. He was joking. There's a wolf coming to take my sheep. And the villagers would come and they'd come and save, and he would say, ha, 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 I was just joking. But the day the wolf came, no one came to save him, and he lost his sheep, right? So every day we hear the woman is being abused, So you can't blame people if the man is being abused and they don't believe him. But one day, eventually, they will see that, oh, truly, this man is being abused. But then I think we ought to ask ourselves, why is anyone being abused in the first place? What causes these kinds of abuse? Because sometimes we focus on domestic abuse, we forget that there are other forms of abuses. You know, there's emotional abuse. And that is so rampant right now.
Verbal as well.
I'm sorry?
Verbal.
Oh, I'm coming there. I'm coming there. You know, so we have emotional abuse and emotional blackmail. You know, where, let me use the women now. They want something, they can't get it, so they begin to cry. And the man has no choice and he feels his hands are tied. I don't want to see her sad. And the woman knows what she's doing. He gives her what she wants and she starts smiling. He's just been manipulated. Right?
Good for those women.
Right. And that happens a lot. Right? Or parents emotionally abusing their children and say, oh, and they begin to compare. Have you not seen this person? You know, he doesn't have two heads. Why can't you be like this? And maybe that child, let's use the subjects right now. That child probably isn't very bright in mathematics, but that child is great in English or great in art. And the father or the mother is saying, why can't you be smart like Johnny? But Johnny is mathematically inclined and I am not. Why don't you help me to find my sweet spot? You know, so that child is being emotionally abused, and a lot of people have grown like that. Then we have mental abuse, and now we're talking about physical abuse. Let me touch on verbal abuse. Most of the time, verbal abuse, like every other abuse, is a coping mechanism. People don't know better. So that's how they cope. That's how they deal with it. For example, a child who grew up in a school that had bullies, or there was a bully who was always on his case or her case, they didn't have the strength, they didn't have the size, but they had the lip. They had the mouth. The mouth was the dagger. So if they could talk their way out of it and run their way out of it, they grow up to become people who verbally abuse others because it's their go-to. That's their safe place.
All right, let's take some messages this morning. Matthias Townsend from Badagry says, I think it is societal value breakdown. Our society is now so porous, so people are high-tempered. However, it is not an excuse for domestic violence. Thank you, Matthias.
Double O Ayodele from Ije Barracks, Obalindi says, everywhere the same story of domestic violence. Orientation can but be enough. It should also be in this curricula of our children in school, since it's a common thing now. The children should know it is abnormal.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Let's take Rosaline Aniele from Morning Shy. She says, what do you do? What type of abuse do you call the one in the office? For me, it seems nobody likes me because of my hard work and wins. So they abuse me in all ways. Please, how do I manage this? Thank you. Your guest is awesome. I mean, she's being physically abused, verbally abused.
She's being
as far as she's concerned,
abused
because of her hard work and her wins.
Right. So
Is that only a perception? Is it? So let's look at it both ways. Is it her? Is it them?
Before we talk on that, can I quickly touch on the one about the students?
Yes.
And put it in the curriculum?
Yes, Ayodele's message.
Yes. So that's a beautiful idea. But you see, there's only so much your teachers can do if your parents aren't doing anything. So do you hit your little sister? That's where it starts from. You know, you need to let him know that it's not okay to hit your little sister. She's a girl. But if you're used to hitting your little sister, very soon you will hit your girlfriend and then you will hit your wife.
But the sister hitting the brother.
Now, if the sister is hitting the brother, yes, we turn a blind eye to that because we say, oh, he's stronger than you. And we tell the boy, she's just a girl.
Deal with it.
You deal with it. And that's why we have the Johnny Depp issue, right? So there has to be a balance. There's something I love to say when I talk to little children, to toddlers, keep your hands to yourself.
Absolutely.
Keep your hands to yourself. No pushing, no pulling, don't, just Keep your hands. Because when we learn to keep our hands to ourselves, when we feel like we want to lash out, we can keep our hands to ourselves. So to the workplace gender bias, so let's not say it's a gender bias, the workplace abuse. In this time and age, there's something called self-promotion. Now, self-promotion is saying that on that project, this was what I did, this is how well I did it, these were the number of clients that I got, just to let you know, I'm doing a great job, right? Some years down the line would have said that was bragging. Now it's okay. So we don't call it bragging anymore now, we call it self-promotion. So she's probably doing a lot of self-promotion and people don't like it because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. She's shining, they feel bad. So they need to make her feel bad as well, which is what abuse is about. My bills are making me feel bad. I don't have the money to pay my bills. You're harassing me, my wife, my girlfriend, my boyfriend. You're harassing me. My bills are harassing me. I need to lash out. And I can't lash out on my bills because they can't speak, so I'd rather lash out.
Okay. We're still talking about domestic violence here. Right. Is there a justification for you to beat up a woman?
Never. Never. To beat up a man? Never.
Is there a justification for you to say she deserves it?
Never. There's never. There's never. You know, I think the person is just a bully or they haven't found, I don't think they are, because they feel she can't, let me use the word, she can't beat me, you know, so why don't I just inflict my pain on her? There's no excuse whatsoever.
Is there a justification for saying, from what she said to me, that's the reason why I need to shut her up?
It's because, well, I need to let the person know that it's because you haven't found a way to handle your pressure properly. If you know how to handle pressure, a good example is you go into the bank, right? If you've ever been, you're laughing because that's such a fantastic example. You go into a Nigerian bank on the day they're paying salaries. Oh my God. Oh my God. And then you have a queue that is longer than, thank God for COVID, so there's social distancing and all. But pre-COVID, you have people lining up from the counter up to wherever. And there's just one teller. God forbid, the system is down. My God. And people are shouting, I want my money now. Is that not why I came to the bank? And people are throwing tantrums. Now, as a teller, are you going to, that's the person who is paying money, are you going to jump over the counter and slap that person?
No.
No, you're gonna swallow the insults. You're going to swallow the insults. So why can't you do that when you get home?
Oh, all right,
so
let's quickly, because we have to go now. Godwin is here, but just we cannot talk about all of these problems without at least preferring some solutions. You have said the school, the classroom is not the best place. The home is where it must start. So now you've missed it at home. You've missed it in the classroom, and here you are about to get married to him, get married to her. What would be the best advice you will give?
Is that you're about to get married to her? Did you slap you when you were dating?
Oh,
yeah. So
I think you guys are married already.
It was sometimes,
some people show signs when they're dating.
Sometimes some people
and
say,
they said,
I'm trying to test him to see
how
what his
can
reaction,
I break him?
Yeah, will be.
Yeah, they're crazy people
counseling,
like that.
Are you advocating that every couple must go for counseling before taking that big step? At least questions must be asked.
Yes.
Psychoanalysis must be done.
A lot of counselors don't know how to do the psychoanalysis. That's why I said a therapist. But you see, in this in this part of the world, when you talk about a therapist, they're thinking of a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Now, a psychologist is not a psychiatrist per se. Psychiatry is part of what a psychologist does, but that's not everything. Because, like I said, there's a trigger. So you need to find out what is it that makes you want to lash out? What is it that makes you want to hit somebody? When you find out what that is, then you can now find out, how can I deal with these things? When that trigger comes, what can I do so that I'm not at the receiving end, or I'm not the one putting somebody else at the receiving end? So it's beyond counseling. Therapy is very, very important.
So let me ask you. So if you feel, because self-analysis needs to go on here.
Yes.
So if you feel you've gone through some kind of trauma in your home and you do not want to pass it on into your home with your wife and children, you must seek therapy. That's what it should be from here.
Yeah, but some people are just too proud. Some people are just too proud to do it. And, you know, sometimes, all of the time, it's the culture, really. It's the culture of the country you're in. Because admitting to yourself that you have a problem is a show of weakness, and that's not true. It's not a show of weakness. It's actually a show of strength. That I'm self-aware. I know what is going on. I know that I need help, and I'm going to seek that help. But a lot of people don't want to tell themselves the truth. They'd rather seem to be strong on the outside.
Last word to our viewers. Last word to them, our viewers, this morning, whoever might be watching.
Yes. If you're watching me and you have anger issues and you feel like lashing out at your spouse or someone who is close to you, please do not. No matter how much he or she provokes you, just say, you know what, please, can I be excused? And walk away. Because if you just say, you know, I can't be here, I'm walking. If you do that, it will aggravate the issue. So very nicely, just take yourself out of that environment and seek help. A therapist would do a great job. And if you don't know any therapist, I'm happy to help you. Or you speak to a counselor.
Right, that's our bit this morning on Morning Delights. Thank you so much, Idowu Taylor, relationship expert, for coming on the show today. Always a delight to have you here. Thank you. Godwin is already standing by to take us through the world of sport. We cannot take any more of his time, otherwise we'll land in Edo State.
No, Romelia, no. I mean, don't do this to me.
All right, you can hear his voice already. We can't have a therapist and you don't want me to ask a question or even